So we've started off with this morning, and you may have missed it, but we identified IBM, who converted from a computer business to a service business. We identified Swatch, that started off as a watch business, ends up being a style business. So there are many incumbents that have responded. They don't necessarily get destroyed. But if you don't respond with really dramatic change, you're vulnerable, absolutely. Okay. Well, Google's one of my favorites because it's local, it's around the corner. I have a little startup in Google World, you know, the Googleplex keeps growing and absorbing like a sponge all our resources. But it's great because it also provides an outlet, if you will, for some of the growth companies that Google ends up acquiring and providing a good outcome for everybody. One of those companies is one of my students, John Hankey, founded a little company and was struggling, and this will get to your question. That company had a mapping solution, and they were trying to figure out who would use this mapping solution. So they were buying satellite pictures and organizing them in an interesting metaphor, and they figured, who needs this? And they figured, oh, well, maybe their niche market, you know, try to get to a niche. So their beachhead niche market was real estate agents. Because they figured, well, people doing research, real estate transactions, you know, if they could quickly see the piece of real estate and see it in geographical context, maybe we could show them the whole world, you know, and then zoom down and show them this real estate so they could consider it in many dimensions without having to physically go there, especially if it was remote. Wouldn't that be interesting? And they were a struggling little company called Keyhole. And their model was to sell this software for, it was $295 to $15,000, $295 to $15,000, depending on what bells and whistles you got. They were losing money dramatically. They were struggling like a cat on glass to get a foothold. Then there was a war. It was Kuwait, and the United States invaded Kuwait in its wisdom or stupidity, whatever. But that created a media circus, right, where everybody had coverage. And CNN thought, oh, look at this cute little thing. If we put this software up, we can show the world, zoom in on Kuwait, blah, 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 and have that in back of. But they didn't want to pay for this software. Well, this little company was struggling to survive, and they're just about desperate, and they're just about going out of business. And they said, okay, if you'll put up one of those transparent logos on the lower sides saying Keyhole Software, we'll let you use our software for nothing. Executives at Google saw that 2 weeks later. They bought Keyhole Software. And John Hankey's very wealthy, and he's still there. And Google Earth is the product, and he now runs all Google Maps. And when I was lost last night on my way to Queenscliff, was it? I mean, how did I get there? My driver was lost going west when he should be going east. I pulled out my, little thing and went to the cloud and dialed up, Google Maps, and I said, here I am from San Francisco. I'm saying to my driver, no, you got to get on the B110. We're going the wrong direction. I can say we're right here. And he's there with a paper map, going into the gas station and asking directions. I thought, how quaint, So what do I think of Google? I think Google brings great value and creates innovation and value for the end user customer while becoming the incumbent and becoming a horrible roadblock in many ways. So the best innovation Google did was something called AdSense, AdWords. In other words, they are an advertising marketplace. What Google really displaced was, when we say who did they compete with, who did they displace, every ad agency in the world is who they displaced, right? They created a new medium for advertising, a new inventory for advertising, and they developed a proprietary way to price that advertising and control the placement of it. So that's what Google is. You might think it's a search engine. No, yes, it's a search engine. But what it is a means of getting you to sit and look at impressions and to own, in some way, your pathway to those impressions and to then sell to the highest bidder your eyeball while you're watching that impression, right? So what do I think of Google? It's great. What do I think of Google? It's horrible. When they went to the public market and sold their shares, they didn't sell one single class of shares. They have A and B shares. And guess what? When you buy a share of Google, I don't know what you're buying because you don't have any right to vote to elect the management or the board of directors. You gave that up. I mean, there's no democracy or capitalistic democracy in the system. So do no evil, don't believe it. It's marketing hype. It's a great company. It's a big block to further innovation. It's reality, it's Microsoft. It's the most amazing evolution of a corporate entity I've ever seen, and it happens so quick, it's incredible. So that's my impressions. You know, I think what emerges in reality first are this intersection here between entrepreneurs and the university. And it's not obvious and it's not easy. And I think it probably happens by people in the university exiting and becoming entrepreneurs versus entrepreneurs invading the university and saying, let me help you. I think it's engineers. I think engineers understand products, and to some extent they understand markets. So a few select engineers, whether you're biological engineers or whether you're electrical mechanical engineers or whatever you are the people that will initiate the commercialization process. They will need broader and broader sets of partners, but I think those are the first steps. And you know, why I don't believe in a cookbook, I would be putting a lot of emphasis on creating a culture within your local universities of excellence to support people participating in both the business world and the academic world simultaneously. It's not a badge of honor to go bankrupt. It's okay to fail. It's not the end of the world. And I haven't been to Australia before, but I've been many other places in the world where bankruptcy or failure is a one opportunity event. It occurs and you're done, right? You never get another shot. So the resiliency, that's a destroyer. Now, there's a difference between bankruptcy and failure as well. Bankruptcy sort of means you use the legal means to unwind all your relationships. People who are professionals at entrepreneurship, when they're failing, see the failure coming and don't run off a cliff, okay? They wind the business down, shut it down. They declare success by selling the business to somebody else. They might give it away. A student of mine just struggled for the last 5 years, and I'm a personal investor. I backed her business. I won't name the business because I'm going to talk about it in a way, but it was a consumer marketing and consumer brand business. They just sold that business with a big press release about the sale to eBay, as a matter of fact. Success. I had to send a little note to our PR group at the university saying, don't latch on to this, you know, as wave the flag about the great success that this student had. In fact, it's a total failure. I mean, not a personal failure, but a business failure. And in fact, they're giving the business to eBay to assume the obligations of that business so they can exit it gracefully. So my point is, in a society where people understand failure, they also manage their failures so that the only people who got hurt were the people who knowingly took the risk. In other words, I invested not an immaterial amount for me in this business. It's totally gone. But I don't dishonor or disregard or disrespect or have bad feelings toward that student who I helped. She failed, we failed, but she'll get another chance. And if she starts another business, I'll probably back her again because I believe in her capacity. Now, if she does it again, you know, I'm probably done. So it's a matter of titration. Where my friends in Spain tell me that if you go through that process once, just don't go back. You might as well move out of the neighborhood. It's like over for you, right? So various customs, Those are good observations and a great place for us to close. Because in fact, it is true. There's never enough money. And when there is money, it's concentrated. Like everything else, Porter is right. Things agglomerate for an advantage. And you want to be one of those places they concentrate. Oh my goodness, we're not. We're in Geelong. Where is the concentration of money in Australia? Where? Sydney and Melbourne, right? So this is my answer. I knew Sydney and I knew Melbourne because I have met people from Melbourne at Berkeley, right? Even from Geelong. So what's the solution? The solution is to accept the reality and to get to where the money is and build those personal relationships and linkages so that people are willing to take on the incremental transaction cost of dealing with you when you're somewhat remote. We're an hour away from Melbourne. San Jose and Silicon Valley is an hour away from San Francisco. the money used to be all in San Francisco. When I came to San Francisco in 1980 and didn't even know the word venture capital, I was joining an accounting firm, Ernst & Young, whose offices were on Montgomery Street. They said, young man, go out and lead a practice in technology innovation. I didn't know about that. I said, how? They said, figure it out. That's your job. You got about a year, right? So 12 years later, I had 125 people working for me. I had figured it out. What did I figure out? I got to the money. The money was in family offices at that time, this is 1980, and small venture capital firms. And luckily for me, it was right up the street on Montgomery Street. In my professional lifetime, by 1991, when I joined the university, 12 years later, that money had by and large moved to Palo Alto. So rather than going up the street, I was spending my life driving that 1 hour and 15 minutes down to Palo Alto. And I opened an office in Palo Alto. I still maintain an office in Palo Alto. I mean, I'm an individual, and I happen to be a general partner in a small venture capital fund. And I incur the expense. I already have an office in Berkeley, which is only an hour and 15 minutes from Palo Alto. No, I've got a Palo Alto address, and if you want my venture capital card, it has my Palo Alto address. It has my Berkeley phone number, because guess what? I'm not in Palo Alto every day. I'm in Berkeley. But I look like Palo Alto. I can sound like Palo Alto. I've got a network in Palo Alto. I've got a virtual presence there. I've got an office. I've got a conference room. And if we make an appointment, I will meet you at my office. Come meet me at my office. I don't say, oh, it's tough for me to get there. I say, I'm of your community. Meet me at my office. And then I make sure I use my time efficiently and spend a day there and line up a bunch of appointments and look like I'm there all the time. And of course, people know I'm not, because I'm on the faculty at Berkeley. I teach. I have obligations. They know I'm up there. But I don't stick it in their face. I have to be of the tribe of Palo Alto, of the tribe of the money, of the tribe of innovation. You have to put on the blue and white Cats jersey, right? You have to wear and be of the community. You can't say it's over there and we're disadvantaged over here. You have to be like them. You have to be of them. Melbourne has a huge, relatively, and very vital angel investing community. I don't know Geelong as well as I know Melbourne. Why do I know Melbourne? Because people from Melbourne come to Berkeley. Melbourne has, with Victoria and whatever, large investment funds from the government, or relatively large, to invest in innovation and emergency young companies. I'm sure those same programs exist here in Geelong and are available in Geelong. But the people I've met have been by and large from Melbourne. Why? Shouldn't be. Why don't I meet you in Palo Alto? I'll meet you in my office on Monday morning. All right? Thank you very much.